Right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content on info@millenniumnews24.com. Download the Millennium News 24 app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Stay tuned with Millennium TV and Millennium News 24 for the latest updates.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Jania Butler, for the New American Perspective. I am in remote location, people's out on the West Coast, Las Vegas, to be exact, tuning into you. I hope you missed me because I sure missed you, and we've got a show for you today. What a week, right, people? What is going on in America? What is going on in the world? So I'm sure that wherever you are, that you've heard about the assassination of social activist Charlie Kirk out of Arizona. He was shot to death last week, Wednesday, right before we were supposed to have our show last week, Wednesday. He was shot to death in public forum at the University of Utah Valley University, excuse my language, and he was shot live. We've seen a gruesome killing live on TV, and it was horrifying. Okay. And so since then, America has been in an uproar because it brings up a lot of conversation. It brings up so much to talk about. Now, most people that do know about Charlie Kirk he was an activist that would go on college campuses. Maybe some of you have heard of Candace Owens. Candace Owens was also an activist that went on the college campuses with the Turning Point organization. And basically they would go and have forums and talk about politics from a youth perspective. And Charlie's been doing this since he's 18. He passed away sadly last week, Wednesday, September 10th at the age of 31, turning 32 in October. So this is a tragedy. He has two kids, a wife, and I'm sure many other people are devastated. So they would do these shows on these college campuses talking to young people about politics and how they felt about politics. And, most people know that he had a really strong viewpoint of himself. He had his own perspectives about what America should be doing. Christian man, followed the rules of the Bible, to what he's saying out of his mouth. But he had a lot of other things to say about other cultures, other races, and things of that nature. So he stirred the pot a lot, right? And he was very instrumental in helping President Donald Trump get elected in this last election with the young people and going from college campus to college campus. So he was not only talking a lot, he was making a lot of money, going out here for these super PACs and these political folks and bringing people alive. And, he's done so much. So unfortunately, last week, a gentleman named Tyler Robinson allegedly shot him from a rooftop 200 feet while he was speaking, while he just started speaking at Utah Valley. He shot him to death in his neck, one shot. And Tyler, 22-year-old native of Utah, said that it was too much hate. So now Tyler is found alive. Okay. He went to his own home, started talking to his parents, who his father turned him in, and he told them that he killed them. So this was outrageous, obviously, because he told them that, I killed him and he had too much hate in him. And so his parents convinced him to turn himself in. His parents said that he actually wanted to commit suicide as a result of, shooting Charlie, and that he was living with a transgender man transitioning to a woman, and they think that this may be his lover or his boyfriend or girlfriend. I'm not sure, but he supposedly had a relationship there. And so a lot of the stuff that Charlie talked about was very, very controversial. He said horrible things. And I think what Charlie did is that he said what the white man wanted to say. Now, I don't disagree with him, having his perspectives. This is where we are, the new American perspective. I didn't disagree with him sharing his perspectives with the world. I mean, now some of the stuff that he would say was very harsh. He talked about uh, Kamala Harris. He talked about uh, Ketanji Brown and said that they're DEI hires and they wouldn't have got hired any other way. He talked about immigrants, coming over. And then most recently, he talked about Israel. And some people are saying, conspiracy theorists, some people are saying that when he started talking about Israel is when he really started going down the wrong, I don't know what you want to call it, but you don't talk about that in America, so says some people. Okay, so he started talking about Israel and how they were doing some weird stuff and all of that kind of stuff. So some conspiracy theorists, they are saying that he may have met his demise, in the back room by looking at and talking about Israel. And because when he talked about black folks, it was okay. And when he talked about how, he was just his candor was very comfortable. He's telling everybody, debate me. And again, I don't think that there's anything wrong with his conversation. Some things that people say that you're not going to like. And some of the things that he said, I didn't like. But again, I feel like America is a free speech country. Everybody should be able to get their perspectives in. Now, what I didn't like is that what he thought was that everything that he was saying was gold, that everything that he was touching was going to be gold, and everything that he said as a result was right because he said it and because he's going in and getting numbers and things of that nature. And so there's a lot of people that didn't like Charlie Kirk. So as a result of that, a lot of people got fired last week because of their uh, comebacks. And they were online laughing, online saying horrible things. People were happy and clapping for his death. And people, I just don't know. I don't know if that's ever a place that we should be. Like clapping and applauding somebody's death. Should we be in that place? I don't know. I really think that this is stuff that we really need to think about as a culture, as an American culture, and as a people. And I'm not saying that Charlie was right. I'm not saying that some of the things that he's saying is right. Now, he is trending as number one now on number one podcast because everybody's going back over to see the things that he said. Did he deserve to die is a question. I mean, who deserves to die, right? Who's to be the judge of that? We can't be the judge of that in those kind of situations at all. So we really got to look at where we're coming from and where we're going with that, right? So Charlie wasn't necessarily right. He had a family that he was building, and he was building out young people, and they thought that maybe Charlie would eventually run for vice president and become the president one day. Well, he was putting together his numbers and his young people that are going to get older, that are going to continue to expand. So the college campus was a great place to start. Now, what I didn't like is exactly that. Like, you're going on to college campuses and you're trying to influence young people before their minds are really completely developed into what they're thinking about. Before they get out into the real world, you're giving them a real dose of politics, but only one-sided. And then you're telling them, oh, you're wrong. And Charlie didn't go to college. That's another thing. He didn't go to college. So he was on these college campuses and he's telling, the kids everything that he's thinking out the top of his head, off the top of his head. And he's going in and all of a sudden, without a college degree, he should be on a college campus teaching kids about politics. I don't know if that's exactly where we want people and where we want things. I mean, tune in, tap in, subscribe to us, come and talk to us about this. How do you feel How did that assassination make you feel? And then President Trump, he had the flag pulled half staff, right? So he said Charlie Kirk is an important member of this society, and he will be remembered by having the flag. He will be remembered by, having the flags half staff and everything of that nature. And so that is just like, what is going on with President Trump. Now, some people think that he shouldn't have, that he had no jurisdiction over America and he shouldn't have flags half staff, which is reserved for, national folks and people that have really served the United States. So, how do you feel about that? Did he serve the United States? Did Charlie Kirk serve the United States? I think that he served a group of people. And what I think that he did is that he went to his white community and was telling his white community things that they wanted to hear that they don't get to hear all the time. People in the white community, and especially younger people, are saying that DEI and the fact that Black people get an opportunity to have affirmative action and things of that nature is not right. That everybody should be on equal plane. And so therein lies most of the problem, is that we're asking Charlie, this equal plane that you speak of, are you speaking it from a white privilege perspective? And that's where most people saw his rhetoric and some of the stuff that he was saying. He was saying that people, didn't have the capacity to do this and that. And he said some really harsh things. And then we'll take a look at some of the things that he said, and then you be the judge. So people, like I said, people got fired after he got assassinated for talking about the things that they were talking about. His funeral arrangements, where JD Vance and President Trump are going to be speaking, will be happening this week, October 21st. I mean, excuse me, September 21st. October 21st is my birthday, by the way, if you want to tap in. But September 21st, President Trump and JD Vance will be addressing the crowd. And I think they're having at the State Farm Arena in Arizona. So they expect this to be a really big turnout. And Charlie's wife, who addressed the nation last week, and she said, if you thought that you were killing Charlie, all you did was turn us into monsters out here. And so I think that there's going to be a lot of Charlie Kirks. I think that Charlie Kirk will be their dying cry. Now, some Black pastors have jumped out and said, hold up, we are not giving Charlie all this much love. What has he done to earn this love? Where the words that are coming out of his mouth and the words that we hear are, words of, discouragement and words of division. And so pastors like Jamal Bryant, they jumped out and they, their Sunday sermon, they talked about, how they would never want to see somebody die or never wish death on anybody. But what they do want to do is they want to make sure that the Black community is not responsible for the death of Charlie Kirk, or that the Black community is not have to have the empathy. Now, Charlie said something very interesting about empathy when he was alive, and he talked about, you don't have to have empathy, and he talked about, we need people to die by gunfire because it pushes the Second Amendment rights. And so obviously he wasn't saying that for himself, but the irony of it is what got people talking and up in craze moments. And so nevertheless, we cannot take away the work that he did for the Republican Party, for Turning Point. That's why we know Candace Owens as we know her, because of the stage that Charlie Kirk and she shared. So if you also might have saw that Candace Owens, she posted her and Charlie, rapping and, hanging out, and they were really good friends. And so, rest in peace to Charlie Kirk and all the work that he's done, in this country. So we're going to go to a break. And when we come back, we'll talk more about Charlie Kirk and what's happening in America. And here on Millennium News 24, this is your host, Jania Butler. AB Butler will be back in the building with the G Check. I'm just on remote location. So we will be back in a minute. And we are back here with the New American Perspective. This is your host, Jania Butler, and I'm here on remote location in Las Vegas. I went to the Bud Crawford Canelo fight this weekend, and it was great. The festivities were wonderful. A lot of people in the house, a lot of celebrities saying and signifying that boxing is still alive. And that's something that we've got to talk about, because most people are now, if you heard anything, Floyd Mayweather and Mike Tyson may be putting together a fight, and it's like an anomaly that they're just trying to make money doing whatever. But we don't need that right now. We don't need the Floyd Mayweathers and the Mike Tyson doing a fight where their weight classes and they're playing in the ring and everything of that nature. Mike Tyson doesn't need to be fighting anyway. We know before his last fight, he got really sick, and so he doesn't need to be fighting anyway. But this Bud Crawford Canelo fight really brought people together. It was 70,000 people at the Allergent Arena here in Las Vegas, and it was a time, and a time was had, people. And so boxing is still alive, and people still want boxing. There was about 50,000 Mexican Americans or Mexicans, I'm not sure, that were in the house in Las Vegas and really rooting on their fight. But I thought that if you did see the fight, I thought that what was really funny about the fight was after the fight, Canelo lost. And they said, "Oh, Canelo, how you feel? How you feel?" And he was like, I feel great. I feel great. I feel really good. I feel really good. And so I laugh about that because, yeah, $150 million, that was his ticket. He got $150 million. It was on Netflix. And Bud Crawford beat him, got all of, his titles and all the weight classes that he got them in. And he is efficient and effective, and the people love him. And Canelo said something slick too. He said, yeah, he's not like Floyd Mayweather. He's better than Floyd Mayweather, because Canelo fought Floyd Mayweather as well. And so, you got all these things going on. Boxing is still alive. It was actually on Saturday night, Tupac Shakur's 29th anniversary of his death here in Las Vegas, in front of, leaving out of the MGM Grand. So much stuff going on. 29 years later, everything is still going on in Las Vegas, but we lost a true one in Tupac out in Las Vegas. And so that's what happened this weekend. You got the WNBA. They are in the playoffs. You've got the Aces, the Las Vegas Aces. They're doing their thing. The returning champions against, I believe, the Indiana Fever, and they lost last night to the Fever. And it's just going to be a great WNBA championship. Your girl Angel Reese, she sat out her last game with the Sky, and she, in protest, because she's doing and pushing the, more money for WNBA players, and and rightfully so. Right, WNBA players, if you know that I've been a basketball player most of my life. I wouldn't call myself an older basketball player now, coaching now, but I call myself a basketball player. And in that process of basketball, you go through stuff. And so Angel Reese, who was a young basketball player, second year out of college, out of LSU, she is pushing for more money. And yes, they deserve more money. Now the question becomes how much, because who is paying their salaries, right? You have the men who have, over 30, they can get $30 million in a year. The men, LeBron James, $100 million in 5 years. But the bills that they are paying, so basically the women are saying, listen, we're the WNBA. The NBA has money. Pass some of that money off. Okay, that's what they're saying with their piece. And so, what do you think about that? Do you think the WNBA players should be getting more money now? No, granted, they should be getting more money now. They went to the table and they came back with some negotiations, but the negotiations weren't good enough. They're starting off. Angel Reese is making $75,000 for her first few years in the WNBA. And so when a first round draft pick comes in the NBA, how much money is he making? He's making $75,000 on his first practice. Okay. And so we really got to look at that. So I shout out to the women, but I believe that we've got to figure out more ways on how, that means that if the women get more money, the tickets to the games go up. And, and again, they want to be, celebrity status. They want to live good too, but it's not paying all the bills. So shout out to the ladies. Good luck to you, ladies. I stand with you no matter what you come up with. Okay. And so we've got the boxing match, and then we've got the WNBA. What else is happening? That means the NBA season is heating back up. And then, of course, we have football. How about them Cowboys? 100%. I'm an Eagles fan all the way. Eagles coming out 2-0 in their game starters. I was able to make the Las Vegas Raiders game, and it was terrible. Whoever the Las Vegas Raiders, they lost their home opener against the LA Chargers, and it was a nice turnout. It was nice showing. I got a chance to be in the Allegiant Stadium and amongst all the people. But the Raiders, oh my goodness, what happened out there? I don't actually know. And so what's your team? Who are you rooting for in football this season? What's your sports team? Tap in, let me know. Come on the show and talk about your sports team and how everything is going. So I just wanted to give you that quick little sports update. Go Eagles! E-N-G-L-E-S! Eagles! Go Eagles! So let's go back to what we were talking about. And also, before we go there, rest in peace to Robert Redford. A lot of you, the younger viewers may not know Robert Redford. He was the first great Gatsby, Robert Redford. I believe he was 89 years old. So I'm sure that he, lived his life, had his time, and his family hopefully got to spend the right amount of time with him. And rest in peace for all the work that he's done. Definitely an American icon, in the movies and everything that he brought forward. So let's hit back to my guy, President Trump. We can't say too much without saying President Trump in our sentences here on the New American Perspective. But so President Trump, he said that he's going to send the National Guard to Chicago. Okay, so that means what? So Chicago, the thugs in Chicago, they already popped out and was like, yo, don't be sending nobody out here. We're going to see your National Guards. And so Trump said, listen, I'm sending the National Guard out there because your numbers is not right. They need y'all had 25 shot last week, 7 dead. So he's saying what is happening and what is going on. So again, I say to our community, the party is over. Okay. We've got to get to the point and to the place to where we value life in a different way, because the party is absolutely over. When they send the National Guard in, these are highly trained professionals. When they send the National Guard in, they're not going to be playing with you. They not gonna be playing gun games with you, gun slinging with you. They coming to get you, and then they're gonna bury you under the jail. So let's just change our way of thinking and our way of life now. We do not have to live a crime-ridden life, Chicago, okay? We do not have to live with that. You have a beautiful landscape. Everything about Chicago is beautiful except when you cross them damn tracks, okay? So we've got to think about what that means when you cross the tracks, when you cross the chain tracks, what that means for us. When you cross the chain tracks in our communities, we should see flowers blossom, not hear gunshots, and not be worried about getting shot up or the National Guard coming in, because you can stop the National Guard from coming in by not doing any more crime, right? So you can stop them from coming in. But I want to press on to our community that we've got to focus on what we need done in our community. And that's a good education. We've got to look at how our education system is set up and who is educating our children, and these people that they're going after with the National Guard. Hands off. Hands off our kids. But we can't tell them to keep our hands off our kids if they've got their hands on the pistol. So let's be real about it. We've got to turn around and stop letting the media talk to us all kinds of way, and talk to our community and our family and tell them exactly what they need to know and what they need to understand, okay? You need to get out of the streets right now, because the National Guard is coming. And that's not time for you to think that what's his name from Chicago? What's his name? Your guy from Chicago, Al Capone. It's not time to think that there's a whole bunch of Al Capones running through Chicago right now. You got to change your lifestyle. Now we're going to work on what the government needs to be doing for us, but you're going to have to change your lifestyle as a result of everything that you're putting forward. Okay, so don't welcome the National Guard and don't threaten the National Guard, because they're going to have a reason to shoot first. I seen in Chicago, they just had that smash and grab where they pulled the car up, broke the door, pulled the car up, pushed the car door open. Pushed the Louis Vuitton door open, and was like, we're coming in and going to get the Louis Vuitton bags. And everybody's jumping in the car and everything like that. And so is it really that hard out there? Do you really have to have the Louis Vuitton? Right? Again, this is in Chicago. So Chicago, you guys seem like you want these people to come to community. Now, people are getting upset about people that are saying, hey, no, we do not want the National Guard in our community. Do you really not want the National Guard in your community? Because some people are coming out and saying, hey, we welcome the National Guard. Now, what about the people in Chicago that want to live with that don't want to live with guns and don't want to get shot up, don't want to be caught in a crossfire? Does that matter to you? And why doesn't it? Why are the gangs so big, and why are all this stuff? Come on now. We can do this without anybody getting hurt. We can do this without casualties of war. We can change the way that we're moving. And then when we change the way that we're moving, we can get more resources in our community as a result of what we are doing. So let's take a poll. Chicago, National Guard or no National Guard? How you feeling? Because I think that, when the hood starts jumping up and they start talking about, oh yeah, Trump, you better not send the National Guard in here. We're a different type of people. And I think Trump is saying, well, let's see. So let's go to a break really quick. We're going to go to a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk more about Trump, Charlie Kirk, the WNBA, everything that's going on here in America, here on your New American Perspective on Millennium News 24. We will be right back. And we are back. This is your host, Nia Butler, the New American Perspective, out here in Las Vegas at a remote location. Beautiful Las Vegas. Might be getting me as a resident. We shall see. But we are talking about that Charlie Kirk passed away. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. We are talking about how many people have been appalled by, the number of people that celebrated his death and the number of people that said that they didn't care about his death, and that he shouldn't be getting flags half staff and everything like that. Tune in. What do you think about that? Should he have gotten a flag half staff? Did he do enough work to be put up? And here's the crazy part. They listen, and I'm not going to say they. I'm going to say me too, because I thought too, as soon as this happened, I said, oh my God, they're going to make him like the white Martin Luther King right now, right? Because he was looking for freedom from their perspective, right? He's looking for, America to be really equal. And see, what happens, I feel as though, as people, what happens is that America can't be but so equal because there's so many things that have happened. And so in a young person's mind, I remember I was young. I thought, wow, we can just bring this all together and it would be simple and easy, but it's not. Right. And so one of the things, again, that I had a problem with, that he was going to the young people and trying to steer the young people in a direction that made sense for him and the Republicans. Now, don't get me wrong. When they come and deal with me, I don't mind turning point. I don't mind. But again, we have to put it in context. And sometimes when white folks start talking about black initiatives and black things, things happen and people get a pure confusion about what's going on, what people think, how they're moving and everything like that. So so it's a lot going on, and it's a lot to definitely digest. Like we said, they found the killer. Now let's talk about this. Now I want to be one of the first to talk about this. Your FBI director, Cash Patel, enter Cash Patel. Now I told you that I was hearing that Charlie may have been being considered as a vice president candidate alongside of J.D. Vance. Yeah, people, that's like the ultimate young white ticket, young white America. They're going for it. So everybody's got to step up. It is survival of the fittest in America. And so if they had a ticket, J.D. Vance and Charlie Kirk, Charlie's got all the young people coming out of college and, getting them registered to vote. And by the way, Reverend Jesse Jackson is on record as having the most people registered to vote during his time. And so we have to check Charlie's numbers before they start saying, like Trump said, the greatest of ever, and I think that Reverend Jesse Jackson actually has over all of these years, since at least 1984, been registering more people to vote than Charlie Kirk, President Trump. So just get those numbers right before you start throwing it out. But I think that he did excellent for, the white community that he was serving, right? Again, I feel like, Candace Owens, she was a black representation for him, and she okayed a lot of the stuff that she said. But that the problems we have with Candace Owens, and Candace Owens, she left Charlie Kirk 2018. Okay, so it's like 2018 that she stopped working with them, and now she's even against Trump, and she wants the Epstein files released. Now that was another conspiracy theorist too. I mean, a conspiracy theory too is that the Epstein files. Now Charlie is saying that we've campaigned on releasing the Epstein files. We want to see who's in them. We want to get to the bottom of this whole situation, and we want to talk about the Epstein files. Now, again, put it in the comments. Do you want to talk about the Epstein files and everything and all the people that are associated with that? Do you care? Is it something that you should care about? Now, these are supposed to be leaders in America that Epstein had, coming to his island and messing with little girls. And now President Trump, he's involved in all this. And so a lot of people are calling this President Trump's way to get everything to erase everything that's going on. How do you feel about it? Do you feel like this is President Trump's way of getting it? I mean, God forbid anybody put up assassination, but I believe that, this guy, Tyler Robinson, wasn't working alone. When they first had Tyler, when they first arrested, we had FBI Director Kash Patel. We had FBI Director Kash Patel, who is being grilled by the congressional folks right now about what happened. Why was he tweeting early? First of all, why is he tweeting? That's what people are talking about, right? And then why is he tweeting that they had the suspect in custody 2 hours after everything happened and they didn't have anybody? It took them 31 hours and the mother and the father to call in to get the suspect in. But Kash Patel kept saying, which makes me really eerie of him, but Kash Patel kept saying, no, we got him. He's in custody. And so to me, the real killer got away during that time, because while you have the killer in custody, which you didn't have the killer in custody, the real killer had time to get away. And now for you guys 31 hours later to come up with this Tyler, the creator, like guy, excuse me my language, to the real Tyler, the creator, but you got Tyler, the creator, who's now shot Charlie Kirk for no reason other than he spews too much hate and that he had to go. I don't think so. I don't think that these 22-year-olds are thinking like that. Now, I do think that they're probably hypnotizing them and giving them MK Ultra and all this other stuff to get them to that point, okay? Because I think that this was a play out of the Dr. King playbook. Remember we had Oswald and they thought it was Oswald and then it was somebody else, and it was all in with the government, and those files had just been released, against the will of the Martin Luther King's family. They didn't want the files released, but they released the files anyway. Okay. And so they released the files, and then here we are. But the Charlie Kirk situation, it mirrors now, while he's not saying at all that he's even anything remotely like Dr. King at all. But what I'm saying is, if the government had a mission to take him out, then it looks a little similar to the playbook they used 50 plus years ago at the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. So I am onto that. I do see that. I see, again, the distraction, having the old man with his pants down. And they said that this old man that they had picked up and they thought maybe was a suspect with no rifle or anything on his head, not even on the roof of the piece. They said that he may be the suspect, and all of a sudden he's not the suspect. And then, so whoever was jumping off of that roof, who their ears and, it doesn't look the same they don't look like the same person to me. Okay. Let me just say that they don't look like the same person to me. Very distinctly different looking folks, but this is who we're going with. And now, one of the things that I said was, we never seen this guy arrested. So we seen him now in court. I guess he's got a bulletproof vest on. I guess that's so. I don't know with the bulletproof vest on, but we seen Tyler today in court in an eerie picture that he's in court today. So if you notice, Kash Patel, FBI Director Kash Patel, he is now front and center. And if you ask me, if anybody wanted to be JD Vance's vice president, I think that would be Kash Patel. Okay. He's Indian American. He's out here. He's, building for his country in his way. And I think that he would love to be the vice president before Charlie Kirk, don't you think? And they said everybody is friends. So I'm just saying what's off the top of my mind and my perspective. So I'm not even saying it's alleged. I'm just saying that this is my thought, maybe my conspiracy theory of everything that's going on. But again, Cash Patel, he's talking about he got 45,000 arrests this year and all the numbers that the FBI was doing, and they sounded pretty good. Ever since that he been in office, and he's on it and everything like that. It became a show more like that. And so they keep asking Cash, well, Cash, why are you tweeting what's going on to the public and not just focusing on what we got to do as the FBI itself, and getting that to the media? Because Cash said, I want the numbers to be right out here. What you think this is about? That's what Cash said right there. So Cash is, he's out, he's testifying before the Senate, and they are saying that there's 20 more people involved, that there was a chat group about this whole Kill Charlie Kirk piece, and there's 20 plus more people that they got to question and they got to bring in. So I don't know how that plays a part on you, but I want to hear from these people too. Now I think Cash is going to lay the whole piece out so everybody knows who he is going forward. That's Cash Patel. Cash money. This is the Cash Money Millionaires, okay? So Cash is out there. He's testifying before Senate, and they're asking him all kinds of questions about leading up to this young man's arrest, who again was in court this morning. Okay, I'm looking at this morning because I'm like, damn, this morning, like it is just the morning. Did I get that news? Yes, he was taken into court. I believe it was on a video Zoom, and he's just kind of sitting there. The cops say that he is not cooperating. So I don't know how that plays out. Did you think that he was going to cooperate if he shot somebody in the jugular? Did you think that he was going to cooperate? Now that goes in to show that many people and many families, if this boy is like a 22-year-old sharpshooter, then we've got to really look at this, because he took a rifle, shot one shot, man in the jugular, dead. What I mean, he did. Why? I don't know. I mean, was he that good, and was it just this coincidence, or can we look back at President Trump's assassination attempt, where the young man grazed his ear while President Trump was looking the other way? God was on his side. And that's not to say that Charlie Kirk, that God was not on his side. I believe that Charlie did his job here. And I believe that if you're a believer of God and of Christ, I believe that, sometimes we mix up everything, and, sometimes we think it's just us and God is speaking through us, and then we're putting our little spin on stuff. And I think that Charlie did his job, and that people should straighten up his conversation, his commentary, and try to make this something for all. Because I think at the end of the day, okay, I can't say that he wanted stuff for all, but I think at the end of the day, he wanted the right things out of life itself. So again, rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. Turning Point USA has a huge headquarters in Arizona, and I think they're getting revved up. They said that about 35,000 new requests for chapters on college campus has opened up since Charlie's death. Again, Charlie is number one in podcasts. So again, did he do his job here on earth? I think that he did his job, and before he got carried away with saying too many things that were out of the spectrum in the God's node, and some of the stuff that came off as evil, which I believe that he thought was true, because he was speaking his mind and he was speaking his perspective, and didn't really know what was hurting people. He's just saying what the white man wants to hear, and people resonated to it. And I think that in America, what we have wrong is that we think that just because somebody is saying something, and they're saying it right, that that we have to agree with it, and that it's right because we're saying it. And I think that we just have to have a little bit more empathy. And some people like Amanda Seals, she went off and said, "No, nobody don't need no empathy." But what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and when we come back for our last 15 minutes, we will review our hour and talk about what's next here on the New American Perspective. We'll be right back with your New American Perspective on Millennium News 24. Join me, Jania Butler, for the New American Perspective every Wednesday at 12 noon for an in-depth look of education, politics, economics, and entertainment from Republican and conservative views. The first of its kind on the Millennium News 24 and the Millennium TV 24 network. We will conceptualize and debate the rights and wrongs of the society, and together we will build the New American Perspective and share it with the rest of the world. You can tune in on all iOS and Android platforms, branded smart TVs, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV. If you're around the world, Horizon Satellite. If you're in Europe or Australia, the Sky Network. Tune in to MillenniumNews24.com or MillenniumTV24.com. All social media, Millennium News 24. We're live and have the podcast at the same time. I am a citizen, and this is our perspective. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that quick delay. We are back here on the New American Perspective. I am Jania Butler, your host of the New American, and we've been talking about Charlie Kirk, his death, and everything that I guess not necessarily that led up to it, because it is just a horrible story. And political violence. Let me say this: political violence has no place in American culture at all, people. And I think that we really need to take that. There was a congresswoman out of Minnesota that was killed um, about a couple months ago. And I think that we need to start talking about this stuff more, about how people are feeling and how we are polarizing the country for people to get out here and to kill people behind their politics. Now, I have ran for office, and I don't want to be killed as a result of me and my political views. Okay. I do not want to be killed because I want to tell you my perspective on how I think about things. And I think that political violence in any form, and sometimes the flames are fanned by both sides of the aisle, right? The flames are fanned, and it moves on to people that really don't know what's going on and think that they are going to be the heroes and the saviors of this, but there's no hero in this. There's no hero in the Charlie Kirk assassination. And also on the same day, there was a school shooting. And so guns in America is a crazy, diabolical thing. Now, I believe in Second Amendment rights, and I believe that the right people should not have guns in their hands, right? Well, excuse me, the wrong people should not have guns in their hands. I believe that 150,000%. But I believe that there's a happy medium that we can come to. But when both sides are fanning the flames, when both sides are looking at what's going on and just figuring, oh, well, we're going to say this and we're going to say that, go hit them and do all of this stuff, and think that people are not going to follow along, something is wrong with that. Something is really and truly wrong with that. So we have to definitely look at what we have to do behind this political violence, because again, I don't want to run for office and defy the odds and somebody kill me as a result because I'm a black Republican. I have to die because of my choices in America, but America's about free choices and freedom of speech. Come on now, something is wrong and something is happening, and either we're
Join me, Jania Butler, for the New American Perspective every Wednesday at 12 noon for an in-depth look of education, politics, economics, and entertainment from Republican and conservative views. The first of its kind on the Millennium News 24 and the Millennium TV 24 network. We will conceptualize and debate the rights and wrongs of the society, and together we will build the new American perspective and share it with the rest of the world. You can tune in on all iOS and Android platforms, branded smart TVs, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV. If you're around the world, Horizon Satellite. If you're in Europe or Australia, the Sky Network. Tune in to MillenniumNews24.com or MillenniumTV24.com. All social media, Millennium News 24. We're live and have the podcast at the same time. I am a citizen, and this is our perspective.
And we are back. Sorry about that. Good people. We are back. Remote location stuff like that. But anyway, so back to what we were saying, and we'll use our last few minutes to really let's look at our empathetic selves. Okay, again, we know that political violence is not something that that we subscribe to here on the New American Perspective. We welcome perspective from any kind, and we really want people to start thinking about their politics. And what Charlie Kirk brought to America was a real thinking about politics. Now, if you feel like you have adverse conversations about it, I think that this is the time to put that into action as well, right? I think that he took his American right. He took his American right and he took his American right and he put it into action. And so, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit around and celebrate somebody's death? When we see that they died of such a horrific death, and are you going to say that and bring horrible karma to you and your family? Or are you going to think about what we need to do in America to make America better, and even around the country? Everything going on in America is happening around the country, and I see you for all that you're doing out there as well. So I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear about everything that you're doing with your lives out and about. When you hear what's going on in American politics, what is it that you're thinking? What is it that you're thinking about? And do you look at us and say, "Oh my God, they're just crazy over there"? What is happening in America? And I think that we've definitely got to take a real look at who we are in politics. I'm a Black Republican, but do I agree with everything that the Republicans do or say? I'm not even happy about right now President Trump, promising us, if we voted for you, that Black America would be different. Oh, let me say that President Trump did push $500 million. Now we'll see, what it's really all about, but he just pushed $500 million to the HBCU, and I hope that that helps, and I hope that that's around the way that we've been talking. But we need economic development in urban communities that help the people get to work. So instead of you looking at, the criminals and the criminal justice people, look at the people that are entrepreneurs and doing the real work and the real business in New York. Let's take a look at those folks, and let's magnify and put them into the right situations, into the right folds, and let's go from there. That's what we need to do. We need to stop looking and saying that one person is it. You have the Al Sharptons of the world, you have the Roland Martins of the world, you have everybody's perspective. And I think that all of our perspectives count, and all of our perspectives should be weighed in what we're looking at. They see things that we don't. They see the old playbook numbers, some of the stuff that we don't. So we've got to listen across the board and see who's capping, lying, cap or no cap. Shout out to Kevin Meggett and his Veteran Service Affairs organization that they're working really strong on. Shout out to them. But let's really just take a look at who we are as a community, who we are as a people, what we want going forward, and stick to that. You have Jamal Bryant with the Target fast. Target just now shut down at least one of its stores, and the CEO was replaced. And so they are doing stuff. So stuff can happen and stuff could be done by the power of the tongue, the power of protest, and the power of working together. So again, rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. I want to continue to say that because he has a wife and children and things of that nature. I don't think that all the things that he was saying was above board. And no, I don't think that the things that he said was should have been the cause of his death. You got a lot of people out here. You got Officer Tatum, you got a lot of people, you got Stephen A. Smith, who have all these perspectives. And this man was gunned down for his. Now, he was effective with his perspective, and he was using the influence that he was using. But like I said, it is up to us to change that trajectory. We cannot die behind politics, and we cannot have assassins running out in the middle of the street because somebody is running in politics. That is not what we want. Las Vegas, Nevada was built off of the gangster mentality, but they changed their tune, and they found a way to make money without killing people in the streets. And so we need to think about that too. We need not be traumatizing the kids being killed on a college campus and all of that kind of stuff. But I this past week it was really rough for me because I look at myself as somebody who is out here making change in the American lane, and I also see people that don't want to change and will kill for the change. And so I have a problem with that. So That's our show for this week, ladies and gentlemen. This is the New American Perspective. I'm your host, Jania Butler. AB Butler will be back next week with the G check. We needed him G checking some things today, but he will be back next week with the G check here on Millennium News 24. And thanks as always for tuning in and taking the time to be with us today. Have a great day.